Salute BookTube. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. Regulars of my channel will notice my last couple of videos I did a book haul in two parts. Uh, I actually went and purchased a bunch of books, and those two parts are just the beginning. I still have a lot of books to haul, so there's probably going to be a part 3, part 4 coming up, maybe even a part 5. But it's Tuesday, and last week I got tagged. I actually got tagged twice by two different channels, so I thought just to change up a bit, take a break from the book hauls, that I do these tags. Uh, the first tag, which I'll do here, this video, is called the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book tag. And I was tagged by JJ, the bookworm blacksmith. She tagged me, but this tag was originally created by Gareth at Book Song and Other Magic. Book Songs and Other Magic. I'll link JJ's channel below, and I'll link her version of this tag. Just before we do the tag, one caveat: this Galaxy Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've seen this book around. I've heard booktubers talk about it. I haven't read it, so the prompts are there. They're just 8 questions, but they're sort of related to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I haven't read it, so I'm just gonna read the questions. Uh, I mean, each prompt refers to something related to that book, but I don't know much about it, so I'm just gonna refer to the actual question and just try to answer them as best I can. So, question number 1 is demolishing your house. What book would you look for first to save from the demolition? So they say the demolition, so there must have been a demolition in the book, but again, I don't know. So if there was a demolition in my house and I had to save one of my books, I was thinking about this. What I would do in this case, I've got you might be able to see some of them up there. Those are and then below as well, and on the other, not showing on the screen, but those are my grandfather's books, or the books in his library that I inherited, I guess. There's not all of them. I took the ones that were most interesting to me. He still got quite a few, but they're at a cousin's house, and it's complicated with family. They don't read. My relatives don't read, but they want to keep the books just for possession. But those books, a lot of them are his, and they have nostalgic value. So I would probably save those, or one of those books from a demolition, just because of the sentimental value. That's not nostalgia, sentimental value. That's what I meant to say. I pulled out some examples of some of the books, just um, some of examples of my grandfather's books. Some of them are old and maybe hard to find. Um, One example is I actually pulled out 2 examples. Although it says you have to pick one book, I pulled out 2. I actually pulled out 3 examples, but 2 of them are from the same author. Um, One of them is the author is HRP Dickson, and the book, and this is in very bad condition and really patched up. I don't even know if the title is clear, but it's Kuwait and its Neighbors, and that's the author H.R. Dickson. It's a nice cover. It's just really faded and really old, and the book is this part is really in bad condition. So this is what I was able to salvage. Again, very old, one of these old hardbacks. But again, this is about Kuwait. Kuwait is a Gulf country in the northern Gulf. For those who don't know, I'm in the United Arab Emirates, the heart of the Middle East, but in the southern Gulf, towards the south of the Persian or the Arabian Gulf. Kuwait is very much in the northern Persian or Arabian Gulf, next to Iraq. Probably most known to Americans or Westerners after Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait in 1990. But this book was written much earlier. This book, again, one of my grandfather's, in his collection. Uh, if I can find the date, I think this one is from 1956, first published in 1956, so older book definitely. And HRP Dickson was an American diplomat who was assigned to Kuwait in the 50s, or just very early, maybe just after post World War II, when America was found itself as the global power, and had interests in places which they would have never imagined, like Kuwait, for example. And so Dickson, yeah, he wrote this big, large book about his time as, I think he was the ambassador. I think he was the American ambassador to Kuwait. So this one is about Kuwait. His other book is a bit broader, but on a related subject. This one, and it's in much better condition with a really nice cover, is called "The Arabs of the Desert," and it's by HRP Dickson. Well, okay, it's by the same author, HRP Dickson. That cover with the camels and in the desert with the you can see the lady riding in the what is it called, the saddle, or the litter, isn't it? That's what it's called. I'm not sure, but then the man is guiding the camel while he walks on foot. But this book is not just about Kuwait, but about the entire Gulf region, which has a lot of nomadic Arabic peoples, or it used to have before oil came and changed everything. So again, this one is from which year? I think this was first published in 1949. So again, older books, belonged to my grandfather, has some sentimental value. I would keep. I'd have to pick one or the other. There's actually a third. Well, actually, just before I let this go, I just wanted to mention that HRP Dickson went as an ambassador to Kuwait early, when before there was oil in this region of the world. But when he went with his wife, and his wife Violet Dickson is also an author, and she wrote a book about the flora and fauna of the desert. Believe it or not, it does exist. So she was also. I just wanted to mention that. But there's a third book also. This one doesn't have a cover, but it's the book is called Nuria Said, and it's by Lord Birdwood. Yeah, Birdwood. Nuria Said. I'll explain who he is. That's Nuria Said right over there. He was the last. I don't know why I'm holding this up. Maybe I should hold up his picture. He was the last prime minister of Iraq. Before Iraq, he was the last prime minister of the Iraqi monarchy. Before the monarchy was overthrown by a revolution that happened in Iraq in 1958. There he is in his glory. I don't want to explain what happened to Nuri al-Malik, Nuri al-Said, what happened to him when he was captured by the revolutionaries. Pretty gruesome end. You can Google what happened to him. I've got a lot of books about Iraq. Maybe we'll get into it at another time. But it was a very horrific ending. Let's just put it that way. So one who divides opinion, still divides opinion in Iraq. But again, I would maybe rescue this one out of the three, only because it's got right over there. It's signed by my grandfather, and then it says in Baghdad, and then it's dated. He must have purchased this book in 1959. It was published in 1959, and he had purchased it, and he inscribed it with his name and where he bought it, which was Baghdad, and then he dated it 1959. So it's got that kind of sentimental value. So maybe I'd save a book like this. Anyway, let's go to the second prompt. It says Vogon Poetry. Again, that's probably from the Hitchhiker's Guide. Quote a poet, a line of poetry, or a lyric that you love. Okay, I'm not the biggest poetry reader. I don't read much poetry. Again, I read mostly nonfiction, mostly history. Poetry is one area which I really need to get into, or I'd like to get into. Um, so I didn't have anything um, or any like specific uh, quotation of poetry that I could give. But then at the end it says, or a lyric. So if we can move this to music, then I have something. It came. I mean, I heard the song very recently. I was actually listening to it on my AirPods, so I was just, you know, I I was like focusing, basically what I'm trying to say. So I was really listening to the words, and it's the first time I actually listened to it this deeply. So it was stuck in my mind when I read this one, and I thought I'd quote it. It's a song by one of my favorite bands. They're called Alice in Chains. Again, I'm a '90s kid, so um, Alice in Chains were quite big in the '90s, big in the '80s and the '90s. Uh, and I was introduced by a friend who was half American. His father is from here, the United Arab Emirates. His mother was American, and she was from Seattle, and they're a Seattle band, and they were big during the grunge era when Seattle bands were really large. Anyway, he introduced me to this band when I was in school, and I've loved them ever since, and since high school. But I was listening to this song recently, and then I was listening to the lyrics, and I just pulled it up. So it's my I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the most recent one I've heard. The song is called "Get Born Again," and I think it's their last song before their original frontman uh, died, passed away from a drug overdose. But the song is called "Get Born Again," and I think it's a bit anti-evangelical, anti against the the born again evangelical movement. Alice in Chains, at least their guitarist, who was known to be a bit, not a bit, but quite left wing and let's just say anti-conservative or anti-right wing America. So the line is, try not to think, I merely blink. Hope to wish away the lies. And then I'll paraphrase another line. It goes, I chose the day, one damp and gray, thick fog to hide our smiles. And then it says, clear all your sins, get born again. Just repeat a couple of lines. That last part, I kind of clear all your sins, get born again. Just repeat a couple of lines. Basically, I think mocking evangelical Christian thinking. But if you are evangelical or religious, I've got you. There's another prompt on here. I think not the next one, but the one after, to balance it out. I'll explain when we get there. So that was number two. What's number three? Is 42 answer to life, the universe, and everything. What is the point? What is the meaning of life? Who cares is my answer. Who cares? These kind of sort of esoterical question, philosophical questions. I said that I read a lot of nonfiction, that I enjoy nonfiction. One thing I don't enjoy is philosophy. I don't read philosophy. I've tried. I can't. I can't do it. Uh, so when these kind of philosophical questions about the meaning of life, etc., uh, don't really interest me. So I'm agnostic, to put it, I guess, in short. But there are times, sometimes, usually just before I'm going to sleep or when I first wake up, when I'm still kind of semi-conscious, where I think about like, why am I here? But that's the only times when it's in the middle of the day and I'm at work or out and about with friends. That's not what I'm thinking about. Like, what's the meaning of life? Again, I don't just it's too short to worry about. Anyway, Question number 4, or prompt number 4. It's radio's beginning. What is your favorite memory in your experience as a listener to the radio? Okay, so this is where I'll come back to evangelical Christianity. um, Again, regulars of my channel will know that I'm half Iraqi, and B, I came of age with the Iraq War when George W. Bush, sent American troops into Iraq to invade it and to implement regime change. This happened in 2003, and that's 2003 is exactly when I graduated high school, and I turned 18 in 2003. So this was my first sort of introduction to adulthood, basically. Uh, at least from a kind of like a geopolitical, I don't know. It was my first experience. It was a huge event, and I was newly adult. Anyway, so getting back to radio, at 18, I turned 18. I had moved to Canada to pursue my university education, and at this time was most of the news was about the Iraq War. It's especially the news built up as it became clear that the Americans weren't met with flowers, or initially they were met with flowers and kisses by the Iraqis, but slowly it turned into an insurgency, and then the news it just increased and increased, about mostly bad news about the casualties was increasing, the number of American soldiers killed, as well as the number of Iraqi civilians were killed, a lot of suicide bombings, and then a lot of attacks on American troops. Anyway, the mainstream media at this time, I'm talking about the American TV networks mostly, and the newspapers, NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, and like the New York Times and all the other newspapers, the Washington Post, were mostly, I'm not being controversial, it was mostly left wing. So very anti-Iraq war, especially as the insurgency, the body count, the casualties of the American troops was increasing. The calls, especially from the left, against the George W. Bush administration was very vocal against the war. And because I have a stake in Iraq because of my background, uh, I wasn't impressed by the politicization of the Iraq War. The left was pushing, the left and their front, which was the mainstream media, were pushing a narrative to get out of Iraq, not because they cared about Iraq, but because they were just anti-George W. Bush and the Republicans, and they wanted them out. So I didn't like that. I thought it was too partisan. And it was like playing politics with another country's fate. And I thought, there was the George W. Bush doctrine was stay the course, which was if you were gonna go, you're in, you own it. You at the very least, leave it better than you found it. Anyway, because of the mainstream media and because of its strong left-wing bias, I was looking for alternatives. I wanted to understand, where is this invisible right wing of America? Like, where is it? Where can you find it? Where does it exist? And by chance, and this is all in my university days, by chance I stumbled into it. I stumbled into some more right-wing writers. That led me to right-wing thinkers, and then that led me to right-wing radio. And that's where a lot of them, this is 2003, 2004, the internet was new. Radio, these were still radio stations, but they were slowly using the internet, and they were able to broadcast much further than just America. So I could hear it really anywhere in the world. You could download their radio show. Of course, now we have podcasts, which is almost very similar to radio. You're doing an interview, and podcasts, technically, you should be able to enjoy it without having to watch. I mean, unless there's something visual, but the best podcasters will be the ones who can mimic a radio station. Actually, that's one of the improvements I want to do for my channel, because I'm always pulling up books, visually, etc. If I can do this in a way where you can maybe listen to this in the car, like a podcast or something, that'd be really cool. But anyway, to go back to the right wing radio stations, that was my what was the prompt? What was your favorite memory of your experiences as a listener to the radio? I wouldn't say it's my favorite, um, but that experience, getting starting to listen to American right wing radio, which was mostly evangelical Christian radio, and they were compelling because these people are like they're like missionaries. You listen to them and they know what they're doing. They're adept at messaging. But I don't want to name names, but probably the biggest one at this time was Rush Limbaugh. But I think he passed away now. But I didn't listen to him. He was much more, I don't know, brash. But there were others. But again, they were my only source of understanding what the American right-wing base, the people who voted for George W. Bush, what were they thinking about Iraq, about the war on terror. So again, that's a memory I thought I'd share. It's a weird one, but yeah, it's just it's radio. Other radio experiences are just when I was younger, listening to radio, listening to music on the radio, which I don't think is interesting as what I just shared. Anyway, prompt number 5, the towel. What book or books would you pack for a holiday? So now, I mean, packing for a holiday, people, a holiday would probably go to the beach. And if you're going to the beach, you probably want to read something light, or you're at the pool, you want to read something light, nothing too, too troubling or too troubling for the mind. Something nice and easy and relaxing. But me, no, I'm such a history nerd. I'll read history on the beach or at the pool at holiday. I'll do it. I don't mind. Um, I mean, there's a lot of beaches here where I'm from, and it's beach season. In the summer, it's really hot, but now it becomes really pleasant. October, November, and the water, especially in October, is still warm enough to swim in. And the weather is cool, so there's a lot of beaches, and then there's a lot of beach parties here, especially in the neighboring city of Dubai, here in the United Arab Emirates. Similar to Miami, a lot of beach parties, so again, if you could do any reading there, you wouldn't be able to do any like deep reading, but if you're just relaxing on the beach, uh, um, even if you're just relaxed on the beach, you want something nice and easy to read, maybe a cozy, like not a cozy, but like a mystery or a thriller or something like that. But me, no, I'm such a history nerd. I'd probably pull this out. I'd probably read something something like this: Elo Koi, 18th century Europe. I'll read this on the beach. I'll read this in the beach club, the beach at the pool party. I'll read this. I really would. Uh, Again, I mean, let's look at an example of a chapter. The Spanish Bourbons. What else is on the? What that was chapter 9. Chapter 10, the rise of Prussia. I could read this on holiday. I would. What's the next chapter? Chapter 11. Oh, this is when the party really gets started. The Austrian Secession. So I'd probably read that on a holiday. That's what I'd pack. The Infinite Possibility Drive. This is prompt number 6. Name a fast read. For this, it was recently Shakespeare in September. I would read, or I'd recommend as a fast read, Shakespeare. These are some of the books or the plays, the Shakespeare plays I read in September: The Tempest, A Midsummer Night's Dream, As You Like It, and then my favorite of the bunch, Othello. And again, look, they're really small, so I would recommend Shakespeare. Nice, quick, and really fun to read. Of course, Shakespeare you could read quickly, you can gobble it up because it's not that long, and they're plays, so it's dialogue and it moves quickly, but there are people who spend a lifetime studying Shakespeare, studying one Shakespeare play. So you could do it really fast, or you could spend a lifetime reading and enjoying Shakespeare. Prompt number 7, don't panic. Name a book with great levels of tension or suspense. Um, well, again, I don't read much fiction, but I did have a fiction example, although I got rid of it. It was the Raymond Khoury books. They were sort of Dan Brown, sort of action, thriller, historical suspense. I don't have them to show, but I'll show a non-fiction book that I thought had really good tension and suspense. And you will find that with non-fiction books from time to time. And I had also recently read this. It's by Andrea Pitzer, and it's called Icebound, Shipwrecked at the Edge of the World. You can see where they're shipwrecked. The edge of the world is the icebound in the northern Siberia. These were Dutch explorers who wanted to find Dutch explorers in the 16th or the early 17th century who wanted to find a shortcut to China from Europe. Now, Columbus and the Spaniards had found a way west where they discovered America. And then eventually they knew there was a Pacific Ocean and they could get there, but it was very far. The Portuguese had discovered you can go around Africa and then through India to the east, to China and East Asia. But that was also quite long. So the Dutch, because they're based in Northern Europe, wanted to go through, they thought if we can go through the Arctic, there'd be some kind of passage and then we would be in China within a matter of weeks. They really thought it was much closer. They didn't know. So this is about those Dutch explorers, specifically their leader William Barents. There's a sea in Siberia and Russia named after him, Barents Sea. So they try to go through the Arctic, the North Russia, hoping to get to China. Little did they know that Russia is so huge, and that it's so cold. And then basically what happens is they get shipwrecked in the ice and they're stuck in the ice. And then this book is just that story of what they did, how they were able to their day-to-day experiences, cast away in an Arctic island where there's no human life and nobody would ever think of even looking for them. Very suspenseful, lots of tension, and you're just flipping the pages wanting to know what happens. A lot of experiences with polar bears as well, which increases the tension. Good book. Number 8, prompt number 8, TV and film adaptations. Pick a book to discuss one or more TV or film adaptations that you know of the book. Pick good and bad if it's relevant to the book. Okay, so what I understand from that is a book that has been adapted to TV or movies, if I got that correctly. Again, I'm a very boring history nerd, but that doesn't mean that nonfiction can't become entertaining, and that's actually something that I'd like to do. Maybe adapt history books history to stories, and we see it all the time, like Game of Thrones. Yes, it's a very science fiction fantasy book by George R.R. Martin, but his inspiration was the whole English War of the Roses between the House of Lannister and the House of, I think the House of Lannister and York. And I think they use House of Lannister as one of the Game of Thrones families, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that history can really be entertaining if done right. The example I want to show for a book that was adapted to TV is this one. It's by Nelson Johnson, and it's Boardwalk Empire. Sorry about the glare, this is very black. Now, you might know Boardwalk Empire from the show. It was one of the first sort of shows, I think, that put Netflix on the map, or HBO on the map. But this is when streaming and watching movies or watching series on these TV platforms was quite new. But for those who don't know Boardwalk Empire, this book is about Atlantic City. So this author, Nelson Johnson, wrote a book about an obscure town in New Jersey. Well, it's not obscure, but it's Atlantic City in New Jersey. Just the history of the city. And his main character, one of the main characters in this work of nonfiction, was the Nucky Johnson, who I think was the mayor in the era of the 1920s, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I read this, and it's been a while. The show, I think, came out also around 2000. And when was this book? Uh, this book is from 2002, and that's yeah. And then so this cover is from the show, and it says over here, the true story that inspired the HBO series. I think the series was from about 2000, yeah, about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, 2010, 2011. Anyway, just shows what you can do. The show, yeah, feature, yeah, here's it's, Steve Buscemi played Nucky Johnson, the mayor, the main character in the show. Shows you what you can do. Just an obscure book about a town, Atlantic City, discussing its history, how it was a sleepy seaside town and grew into a, what does it say here? Uh, its birth as a quiet seaside health resort through the notorious backroom politics and power struggles of the 1920s with the whole bootlegging era. And then the city's rebirth as an international entertainment and gambling mecca where anything goes. This book doesn't discuss, or this book discusses all of that. It's the whole history of Atlantic City. But the TV show Boardwalk Empire focused on the Nucky Johnson sort of prohibition 1920s era. And it was a well-received TV show or series. It was quite popular. They didn't discuss the health resort. They don't talk about the new stuff, all the new casinos, but the days of the prohibition, etc. That was the focus of the show. And again, like I was saying, very well received. So I picked that one. And that's the end of the tag. I answered all the prompts, I believe. There's just one more, which is to tag people. Who am I gonna tag? Elizabeth at As I Lay Reading. I'm gonna tag her. She tagged me. I'm gonna do her tag next. So I'm gonna tag her back. I'm gonna tag Joseph Francis Burton. I'm gonna tag him. I didn't think he did tags. I didn't think Elizabeth did tags either. Both Joseph and Elizabeth are very serious. They read fiction, but they do really in-depth reviews on their channels. But I was glad to see they both have excellent senses of humor, and they both apparently do tags. I just saw two of them. Both channels do tags, so that's reassuring to know. So I'm gonna tag them if they want to do it. They're more than welcome to. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna thank one more time JJ for tagging me again. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna link her channel below, and I'm gonna link as well. Leave a link to her tag, her version of this tag. You should check it out. But yeah, I'm gonna go and do the other tag in a separate video. So I'll see you there. Salute, BookTube.